This has Rangers fans fired up as they cannot be serious. Multiple insiders, reporters, and fans across the league alike are continuing to disrespect the New York Rangers. We're going to break all of that down in this video, but before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you are not subscribed to the channel, 71.6% to be exact. So if you want to do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. The subscribe button is free to hit. It costs you nothing, and you get to stay up to date with everything Rangers. And obviously the preseason's coming, training camp is coming even sooner than that, and of course the regular season. And it's going to be a very exciting season for the New York Rangers because of course they are going for the Stanley Cup. They are that good of a team. They won the President's Trophy last season, and they're going to be in the mix again to try and win the Stanley Cup. And now, you know, every year there's an annual article, whatever you want to call it, a report of every team's prospect pipelines. And not just prospect pipelines, but how the team will shake up this season. And I thought, you know, it was posted the other day, of course, and this was Jim Cerny who posted it, or tweeted it out at least. The New York Rangers ranked 15th out of 32 NHL teams in the Athletic NHL rating of age 22 and under pipeline. So they are technically prospects, but Lafreniere fits into this category, and we're going to get into that, which I thought was pretty interesting. And the fact that they rank 15th, right? So yes, they're better than half the league, but 15th out of 32 is a little puzzling. We'll get into it because I feel like the Rangers pipeline per se is actually really good and will actually help the team, the big team, not just, you know, who they have in the system, will actually help the big team this season. I mean, they just added EJ Emery to that, right? They have Gabe Perreault, who probably won't play in the NHL this season, or I'm pretty sure he said he's going back to school for one more season. You have a bunch of players, Matthew Robinson as well, which we're going to have another video on that as well in terms of, you know, trade scenarios revolving Robinson. I think that might be pretty interesting. But, you know, the Rangers have a lot in the pipeline, right? And a lot of really good players. And let's dive into it right now. Pronman, who wrote the article, projects Lafreniere to be an NHL All-Star and refers to the 22-year-old forward as a dynamic offensive player with high-end hands and vision. We saw that in this year's playoffs. Lafreniere was unreal, obviously against the Florida Panthers. The entire playoffs was his coming out party this year. So obviously he's going to be great and probably one of the best in terms of this category, probably one of the best prospects or under 22 in the pipeline in the entire league. So I'm not sure how the Rangers ended up 15th, but he added that Lafreniere likely would have exceeded 70 points last year had he received more opportunities on the Rangers power play, which he probably will this year. And of course, he's going to be in the top 6, of course. And I wouldn't touch that second line that he was on. I mean, we can look at the projected lines, which I want to come back to later in the video, but Lafreniere there with Trocheck and Panarin, probably wouldn't touch that for the time being. He competes well and looks a lot like the player he was in junior, which is another thing. He was not looking like that player earlier on in his NHL career. He does look like that player now, exactly what, you know, he was slated to be. So that is very exciting on the Lafreniere side of things. Now, moving forward, another guy who I think could make the team out of camp, who is not in this projected lineup, but could make the team out of camp, and, you know, not just out of camp, we could see him regularly throughout the season as a call-up, is Perreault Othmann. And the Rangers can supplement their roster with 22 and under pipeline, with their 22 and under forwards. Specifically, I think the defense is pretty set in stone for me. I see a lot of people in the comments saying that that isn't the case and they would do something else with it. But anyway, the forward group. And I thought this was an interesting point that was in this article. The Rangers can supplement the NHL squad with a lot of players from not only the AHL, but just in the prospect pipeline who may make the team. And I thought that was a really interesting point in this article that, you know, he, even with Gabe Perreault, who is going to stay in Boston College, right, could make a difference down the road. And, you know, Perreault Othmann this year could make the team, like I mentioned, maybe in a bottom 6 role. So there's a lot of things to like about this team, and the fact that, or not the team specifically, sorry, the pipeline, I should say, and that it can help the team right now. They have one of the best. I cannot believe that they ranked 15th on this list. I feel like they should be much higher than 15th because I feel like a lot of players can come in and make an impact immediately for this team this season. I do. And, he touched a little bit on Gabe Perreault, which I want to now for a minute. His puck play is so good, full of highlight reels and doing things other forwards can't, that I think he can be a top 6 winger despite the skating. I think that's pretty interesting. Now, to get into Gabe Perreault very quickly, obviously he's not going to play in the NHL this season, but if you look at his stat line from Boston College and, of course, the development program, he's going to be a great player. I feel like this will translate to the NHL and quickly, and if they just leave him to develop properly, which the Rangers have a very hard time doing with certain players, I feel like he will develop very well, and lots to like from Gabe Perreault looking towards the future, and from Corey Pronman as well. This isn't the deepest system, but for where the Rangers are in their contention cycle, because obviously, they're tops of the league, right? And they're going for the Stanley Cup. It can help supplement their roster. And I think that's a huge thing going into this season. They're a great team, and they can call up guys if need be via, the Hartford Wolf Pack. And, they're looking at certain prospects coming into training camp. I'm sure they might look at some guys on PTOs. It's going to be really interesting, a fun season for the New York Rangers, I believe. And, in terms of Perreault and Othmann, to get back to that, because I'm really high on this player. I think that he could be a difference maker for the Rangers this year. Not in terms of top 6 or anything like that, but I think he can come in and play a lot of games for them. And I'm hoping that he makes the team out of camp. But, there's Will Cooley's there. There's a lot. There's going to be healthy competition to fight for in the lineup this year. So he is a highly skilled forward, but it's the physicality and the edge in his game that makes him so appealing. He's a physical and competitive forward who can frustrate opponents. And that is exactly what we've been talking about for the New York Rangers. This is exactly what they need in the playoffs. So if he's ready to go, he can make a difference not only in the regular season, but I feel like he can make a difference in the playoffs next year. He can be another one of those players. I liked Will Cooley in last year's playoffs too. I thought he was physical. I thought he was playing with great speed. Obviously, didn't chip in and scoring a lot, and the Rangers were having a problem with that later in the playoffs. But a guy like this can make a difference if he figures it out at the NHL level, and that will be fun to watch this season. So more on Gabe Perreault before, we wrap it up here. The Rangers should not be afraid to give Gabe Perreault an NHL shot. And I thought this was very interesting. And this is from Stan Fisher, of course. And he had some interesting thoughts here in this article. Chris Drury has himself a potential big winner in right wing Gabe Perreault. That is for sure. We know that is the case. Obviously, he said that he wants to go back to school. It would be interesting to see if he were to make the team out of camp. I don't know if that's very likely. Probably unlikely. But a few points here in this article I thought were pretty good. And Gabe is ranked first among the Blue Shirts top 10. And, Perreault is ahead of, as put here, overhyped Brennan, although I think Perreault and Othmann will be pretty good and could help the Rangers. He has to show it in training camp, though, for sure, and above Adam Sikora as well, which I thought was pretty interesting because he's a highly ranked prospect in the system as well. So lots to like from Gabe Perreault. I think this is going to be an exciting season to watch. Obviously, the New York Rangers, but what Gabe Perreault does throughout the season as well, if he doesn't make the NHL team, which I would say, again, is very unlikely. But let me know in the comments what you think of the Rangers pipeline and, people disrespecting the Rangers, honestly. I feel like they were ranked maybe a little too high here, or a little too low, I should say, on the list. They should have been ranked higher because I feel like they have a lot of players who can make the jump from the AHL to the NHL and a couple players who may be NHL ready as soon as this year, right? So very interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.